Environmentalists have failed.
Yes.
There's also
failed.
that too.
100%.
We don't take responsibility.
Hi, this is Zena Harris.
And I'm Mark Rabin.
Welcome to the tie-in.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the tie-in. In today's episode, we've got an exciting conversation with Brett Walter and Tim Guinee about their exciting initiative called Climate Action Now. This is actually the tech world and Hollywood coming together in a positive way to get folks active and engaging daily in an easy way.
Yeah. It's so cool because after the conversation with them, I signed up for the app and I have been doing my daily acts. It's super easy to use. Wait till you hear this interview because it's really like, I love this kind of mashup between tech and Hollywood. And, read a little bit otherwise saying that, this is, can sometimes be controversial, but
yeah, but
this is a good one.
It strikes at everything that we're working on here and we believe in as well. So it's just a really, really exciting to be able to share both of our sides to come together. So it was a really collaborative conversation, and yeah, one of my favorites, to be honest, so far.
Yeah, I know. It's super cool. This just gets to the, when we look at folks who work in Hollywood and we see, talent and we see, folks that are, on the top of the crew list, for example, like these folks are interested and engaged in doing other things too. And this is such a perfect example of how that plays out. We've talked to others on the podcast that, similarly, but, great to highlight kind of, interests and tech and,
civic engagement and civic engagement.
Collective action. This is like this is exactly, we talk about this a lot. It's important. We have to act. We have to do something, right? I actually recently wrote a piece, I think it was a year or two ago, kind of on this. It's like what gets recognized gets repeated. And I say that, I think it's on our website, my Green Spark Group website and on Substack. So celebrating the sustainable wins. So that was fun, but this is like, it really gets to the heart of it all. And, other people are talking about this too in other industries and around. Like, I was really honored to get, asked to participate in the inaugural edition of what is a new publication called Spark Catalyst.
Yeah.
And that's CTR's new,
CTR's Yasmin Glanville's new initiative.
Totally. And, she's got a few leaders in there, and I provided my perspective from entertainment and what we've been doing over the last decade or whatever. So, trying to inspire folks, right? And, get in the game, right? Do something in your organization, right? And with your employees, and engage on the topic, because it's not solving itself.
Yeah, so it's a newsletter coming out. We'll share the link, and it's ctr.ca Spark Catalyst blog.
Yeah. So that's a new one. And it just goes right to, what Brett and Tim are talking about, and, what they've got on their app. And, we really gotta get in the game. We really gotta, create habits that matter, that are action oriented, and then align with values. So I think it's all important.
Yeah, absolutely. So we look forward to your feedback on this exciting interview. Have a listen, and please remember to like and subscribe to the tie-in and hit us up on social media and spread the word.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the tie-in. Today, we are excited to speak with two incredible forces in the climate and entertainment world. We have with us Brett Walter, who is an award-winning software designer and veteran Silicon Valley entrepreneur and executive. He is the founder and CEO of Climate Action Now. Also, Tim Guinee, who is an actor and the president of Climate Action Now, and on boards and pushing boundaries around climate science and entertainment.
Yeah.
Hi.
Amazing. Welcome both.
Thank you.
We're absolutely honored to have you on our podcast and to speak with you and to learn from you as well. And so, yeah, you both have done a ton of stuff around climate engagement in various ways and have so many things that you're working on. So please share a little bit, and before we kick it off, about yourselves and what you're up to.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your work. Thank you for thinking of us. I hope we rise to your level. But looking at your backgrounds and what you guys have been doing, just so awesome. Thank you for all that great work. Really appreciate it. Tim, you want to start, or should I start, or what?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll just mention, this is easier this way. Brett is kind of a genius in the Silicon Valley computer world. And Brett had the kind of brilliant idea that if you make it easy for people to take action on the climate crisis, they're more likely to do so. So he created an app at not small personal financial expense that called Climate Action Now, that lets people take thousands of actions on the climate crisis in seconds. Every time they take an action, they get points. Every time they get enough points, a tree gets planted. So people have taken around 3,600,000 actions on the app so far. Over 200,000 trees have been planted. Over 400,000 trees have been planted. Brett just waggled fingers at me if you're not watching this on visual. But kind of a brilliant thing. So yeah, that's what I'll say about Brett.
Thank you, Tim. Let me say something about Tim. So shortly after I launched the app, Al Gore's organization, the Climate Reality Project, did a pilot with the new app, and to kind of measure how effective it was. And by the way, just to underscore what Tim was saying, the Climate Reality Project documented, not us, they documented that their supporters, they call them leaders, with the app took 29 times more actions than people using conventional advocacy tools.
Okay.
Well, their pilot, though, involved us working with 3 of their chapters. And at the time, they rotate annually, but at the time, Tim was the chairperson and leader of the New Hudson Valley chapter, I think. And Tim and I, so that's how I got to know Tim. And then Tim he said, "This is it. This is great." He dove in, and then that began what has really been a phenomenal collaboration, because you will not find a more hardcore climate warrior than Tim. Tim's life, as far as I can see, is divided between, he gets an acting gig, well, then he disappears into a black hole, right? That's it, right? But when he doesn't have a gig, he's doing stuff with me, or he's in the Albany State Capitol lobbying for legislation, shoulder to shoulder. And I would say he's probably Al Gore's favorite climate supporter, I would think. Oh, come on, don't make a face.
That's hyperbolic.
Come on, you're the guy
Completely hyperbolic. Hush.
Just true. You're the guy they bring when they have their trainings. They'll have like an action hour.
All right. I don't know whose idea it was to let you talk about me.
Well, I've got other stuff too on the list, like, member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences Commission on Accelerating Climate Solutions. Like, that seems like a big deal, right?
That was interesting. Yeah, that was a super bipartisan bringing together of people to try and find common solutions. And so there were fossil fuel executives, there were evangelical folks, there were Republicans and Democrats. Anyhow, that was an actually really interesting project.
Yeah.
But before we go too far on, just so that we're clear on what the Climate Action Now activations, or you mentioned, or, what is that exactly? How are people interacting, and why is the uptake and the interest so much more pronounced than sort of more traditional climate initiatives?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's much more easily demonstrated visually, but I'll try a verbal.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get the Climate Action Now app and you install on your phone,
And I'll just interrupt already. It's free, the free Climate Action Now app.
it's free. That's exactly right. And it's sort of like a dating app. You get an action card that says, like, tell your state senator to support solar, or tell your federal representative to pass AB 155 or whatever. There's learning actions in there too, and maybe look at a video, listen to the tie-in podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the emphasis is on sending messages. So, for example, to send a message to your elected official, because the app knows your address, it'll say, tell your state senator to support solar legislation. Because the app knows your address, it knows who your state senator and state representative and your governor is.
Mm-hmm.
And it knows the contact, it knows how to contact your elected officials. So all you have to do as a can-doer, as we call our users, Climate Action Now can-doer, is you'll say, tell your solar, one touch. Okay, boom. We show you your representative, and then you can choose to call your representative or email your representative. And if you do email, it will then present a well-written, well-researched letter to your personalized to your elected official. And then with your third touch, you can send it. You can edit it, or you can, with a third touch, you can send it to your elected official. And you earn points when you do that. And as Tim indicated earlier, when you've earned enough points, we will actually plant a real tree on your behalf.
Nice.
And Tim goes in his backyard and he plants the tree.
And actually plants a tree?
Okay.
Well, we need a video of that.
Yeah.
Well, so everybody should be doing this.
As wonky as it sounds, the thing that happens is people take an action and it's very fast, and they're like, I'll take another one. I'll take another one. So what we tend to see in terms of the usership is people take like 10 actions at a go. And, it's hard to send one email a day.
Yeah.
So a lot of the heavy lifting gets done. And while you're boiling your coffee in the morning, you can start your day having knocked out 15 actions on the climate crisis. It doesn't replace the whole suite of actions we all can take and should take, but it's a really good additive tool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is something Tim pointed out. There's kind of two parts to the secret sauce, if you will. The first secret is it's super easy to take an action, but the other part is the carousel. So having completed an action, the next one is queued up. 3 touches, you do the next one. 3 touches, you do the next one. And the messages that you're sending are as good. They're well written, well researched. I mean, they're as good as any message you might write on your own. And so as Tim said, the average can-doer takes 10 actions a day, as opposed to conventional advocacy, where let's say, you're a member,
1 a week.
You're a member of an organization. I won't name any, but you'll recognize the experience where maybe you get 3 or 4 emails a week from that organization. 3 of them will be donation appeals, and 1 of them will be a call to action. And that will be a click to a website where you'll fill out a form or you'll send a message to your senator, and then you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You're done for the day or maybe for the week, right? So that's that action carousel, which I'm glad Tim brought that up. That's really, really important, that is having done that. Now, I'll tell you a secret. Well, you want to say something, Tim?
I was just going to say the other thing is those actions come up. You can just, if you hate one of them, you just swipe past it. You just swipe left, and eventually you get to go on a date with Brett if you swipe far enough.
That's the end of the carousel. It's just like...
No, that's if you lose. When you win, they get the date with you, Tim. And you can
There's no losing. There's no losing, though.
I mean,
so here's a secret that I will tell you that most people, even in the climate movement, don't know. They don't know this. Concerned citizens will take much more action than you think than people think they will, if you just simply make it easy for them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And to illustrate this, I mean, if you go to any climate advocacy website, virtually any website, you will find at any given time they aren't asking people to do any more than 5 to 10 things at a time.
Mhm.
Go to the website, look at their action, see what actions they'll have, maybe 5, 10, 15
Mm-hmm.
actions at any one time. That's the number of actions people take in the app in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I don't know if people realize that, I mean, that leaders of these organizations, gosh, guys, if we just made it easier, there's people
Mm-hmm.
out there, they'll do it. If you ask them, they'll do it, but you got to make it easy for them.
Mm-hmm.
We have one guy, Rick Moody, who's former academic advisor for the AARP. Rick is amazing. He's one of our super can-doers. Rick takes 70 actions a day and has been doing it for nearly 2 years. And we have thousands of actions in the app. And Rick is very particular about the actions he takes. If it's, oh, watch this video on climate tipping points, not interested. He goes past all of those. He just wants to send messages to his elected officials and
Mm-hmm.
business leaders, CEOs and whatnot. He does 70 of those a day and has been doing it, for nearly 2 years. Yeah.
I have been doing that myself personally. My family thinks I'm crazy, but I'll literally I'll just, you know what? I'm going to take 5 minutes this evening after dinner and I'm going to send emails to my people, my representatives. But now that I know about this app, I'm just going to be sending all the time.
What can you do in 5 minutes now?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So first of all, thanks. I'm going to get on there and start sending tons of messages and doing those kinds of things. And it's a little challenge for our listeners to get on there and start using this and taking action. I can also imagine that by making it easy, and giving a suite of ideas that people don't have to come up with an idea themselves, that you also the more you do, the more confident you get in your either knowledge of climate science or actions you can take, and you're more probably willing to talk about it with a friend. Hey, I've got this cool app, you should do it too. I've learned this thing. What have you guys heard any stories about stuff like that where people are now kind of growing into their confidence? You don't have to. I'm just curious.
No, I know we have. I just don't. I'm trying to. Nothing's leaping to the front of the meat in my skull.
I think it's a collaborative. It sounds like more. It's just like the whole cohort is kind of
moving forward.
influencing itself.
I mean, there's a thing, and that's absolutely true. One of the things about the climate movement is it is possible to get in it and get overwhelmed by the sheer scope of the thing.
Yeah.
And an awful lot of people who want to be activists die in the valley of isolation where they think they're the only one taking action. And frankly, that's helpful to the fossil fuel industry. If they can overwhelm you into being numb and not doing things.
Yeah.
But one of the things I think with the app, and I would say one of the things about joining the Sierra Club or NRDC, or that we are social animals, and when you're on the app, you can, there's a thing you can click on and go, oh my God, we're up to 3,650,000 actions, and you feel part of a tribe. And I think it's one of the most important things. If you want to be a climate activist, don't try and do it alone. Find a way. And the app provides a social element the same way joining the Sierra Club or Climate Reality or whatever also does.
Back to your question, Zena, I know I hear many, many times of people, they use the app for a while and they stop using it, but then they've gone and they went and they got solar panels, installed, or they've cut back on their consumption of beef, and I see these as really important effects. I mean, these are ripples in the pond, right? You
Right.
drop a pebble in and it just the ripples just go out. I hear that all the time, from people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's so,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was going to say it's so interesting. I'm taking right now, just started taking a regenerative economics course with John Fullerton and the Capital Institute.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so cool. And what's interesting is that we go into these groups, and I'm starting to see there's 50-50. Like half the group is always despair about climate and the economy and what's going on, and then the other half is optimistic and tends to be an age divide, or there's different, like, we're seeing different ways that people are sort of breaking off into this despair and optimism. Maybe this like a youthful optimism, like we're going to be okay, or there's an older cohort that's been around and is like, well, what are we doing? Like, I don't know.
I want to make a suggestion about what that division is.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
I think
Please.
that what that division is people who take action and people who don't. That if you are active in the climate movement, a couple of things happen. You begin to get a sense of your own agency. If you're active in the way I suggested before, where you're part of a social movement, you start becoming aware of actions people are taking all around you. There's a thing which is tricky, which is that we're dealing with an enormous crisis, which is staggering. And to understand the urgency of it and to get into action, you have to understand how staggering it is.
Yeah.
If you don't get into action, you're stuck in that place of despair. If you get into action, you somehow are able to move forward and hold the science. It's not a binary thing, but that requires a certain leap of faith to get to this place of understanding that the action is worth it, is a gift unto itself, is a is a kind of calling for the moment we're all in. It's a moral calling. And if you don't get active, you will sink into depression, period. Because if you're not active, then you're going to live in denial, and there's going to be a mouse chewing on your foot saying, this problem's here, this problem's here. So that thing of being of service, which is the gift of this thing. I mean, and again, Climate Action Now is certainly one way to go at it and get a taste of what it feels like to be active, as is, going to a protest, writing your congressman on your own, visiting your congressman, joining an environmental group, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I'm guessing that's where the divide is in your class.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I haven't actually thought about it that way. Mark and I work in this space all the time, and it's like, thank you for that sort of that analysis or the perspective on it, because we're trying to like pinpoint why don't people do a certain thing, or why don't they see, like, we're talking about all the, maybe we're on the optimism side of the spectrum, and because we're constantly working in this space, we see all the opportunities out there. And what's holding people back? Why don't they lean into some of this stuff? That's a great opportunity. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
What others have said, I forget who kind of popularized it, but the expression is action is the antidote to despair. And that is really true. After Trump was elected, I was plunged into despair. And literally I then started, well, okay, I got to get back to work. And I started getting back to work. And then I noticed I was feeling better. And I said, gee, it's actually true. Action is the antidote to despair. I just experienced it. But this is really, climate change I just think many times, this is the most difficult problem, we've ever faced, as a species. And we've all talked about, the different reasons for this, but one of them is we know we're just not wired to deal with long-term problems, we're wired.
And complexity, and the complexity of the problem.
Complexity.
Yeah.
And we're kind of wired to kind of look out for number one and do what's in our own immediate sort of self-interest.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we have this massive industry, this powerful industry that is doing everything that it can to inhibit, and prevent, action. And without that, man, I just think right now, if we hadn't had this force working against, positive change, we'd be so much further along now. I mean, this is a totally solvable problem, right? And instead of all getting together, say, hey, we got to solve this, and working together, and lots of joy comes, so many great innovations, so many wonderful things that are being, done. But instead of pulling together, we're being pulled apart because there are financial interests at stake that don't want us to solve this problem. It's too bad,
I want to say something.
Go ahead.
I agree with all of it, and it's all total bullshit. The other part of it is environmentalists have failed.
Yes.
There's also
failed.
that too.
100%.
We don't take responsibility. And part of the way we failed is we have science, numbers, graphs
I know.
are glorious to the people that science, numbers, and graphs speak to.
Yeah.
But we also need people who speak from the heart. That's another ear that another whole part of the society hears. We cannot think that this is something that only requires the expertise of scientists and politicians. It requires everybody. And there is sometimes a sense from I think that climate activists talk down to people. We talk on high from a position of, what's a radiative forcing and what's a blah, 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 blah. And I think people resent experts a little bit, and so there's got to be a thing where we say, plumber, you, garbage man, dishwasher, you are as vital in this movement as anybody. We have to recognize that the homeless guy on the street probably knows more about the local effects of climate change than the top climatologist in the country does. And over and over and over, I think we have to do that. Yale Climate Opinion Survey tells us we're 65%, 70% Americans now understand this, but there's about 17% that have the understanding but aren't active in their brain. And if they were to get active, we could vote in politicians that would be, and that's not polemic. There are some Republicans who get this thing. So,
yes.
But we could vote in politicians that understand that this is a vital, urgent thing. And right now, they don't understand that. We also have to find a way. I have a friend. I went in a state's governor's office, a friend of mine, and I asked this person, what do fossil fuel lobbyists do really well that climate lobbyists are terrible at? And she said, oh my God, that's easy. Climate lobbyists walk in stinking of self-righteousness. And fossil fuel lobbyists understand that relationships are more important than a specific piece of policy. So they play a long game that builds relationships. And that means you want to open the door to them easier. And climate lobbyists come in and scream at you, So we've got to get better at that. And we also have to learn to talk to what matters to people. If you're talking to a banker, they may not care about a polar bear, and if you're talking to an animal rights person, they may not care about the economics of something. I mean, anyhow, sorry, I don't mean to get on a.
Well, no, but I think you're onto something there. It's like, we're terrible at, the left, center left, whatever we're calling this, progressive. I don't know what to call it anymore. At distilling simple key messages and meeting people where they're at. And that's what that's kind of the thing, versus again, right? Those lobbyists we're talking about, they've been so good at meeting everybody where they're at, and they have different tiers and young organizations and older organizations. They're just meeting everybody where they're at with very key, simple messages that everybody can rally around. And that's what we're missing.
Right.
Mhm.
And you brought this up. The other issue with this thing is this is a tough, complex issue.
Yeah.
We have become, as a society, awful at holding serious conversations. There's fabulous
Yeah.
book, Neil Postman.
Dialogues. Yeah.
Yes. Neil
And
Postman.
debates, like healthy debates, conversation.
Yeah.
It's okay to disagree. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. You know, the Lincoln Douglas Peoria debate, Douglas spoke for 3 hours, and then Lincoln spoke for 3 hours, and then they each had like an hour rebuttal. And Lincoln said to the crowd, "Hey, why don't you guys go home and get dinner?" And they all went home and ate dinner, and then they came back, and then there were 2 more hours. 8 hours. 8 hours. I mean, we can't do that now.
No.
And certain
20
issues,
minutes.
like the climate crisis, you know, we demand to be entertained. We demand to be entertained by our news. We need to have the discipline to be bored a little bit.
Yeah.
That's contradictory, and I agree exactly with what you said, Mark, about our ability to make things palatable. So those are contradictory, but somehow we have to do them both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want one quick anecdote, and then we can sort of shift gears, I guess. But you know, I went to New Orleans in December for a meeting, and first thing I get into an Uber, and the first thing the Uber driver tells me about is how the floods ruined her car. The insurance company won't insure it. She's got to loan her car, and her life is in tailspin, and so on and so on and so on, right? But never acknowledging that climate change or this is happening or something like that. But it was interesting. And then I got into another Uber a little bit ago, same thing. Another conversation about the floods and about this. And then I started to have these conversations with all these folks in New Orleans who politically on the spectrum were probably definitely Republican, voting that in that way. I'm Canadian, by the way, so I'm just saying I'm speaking kind of objectively here about.
Oh, here you are, just shitting on our people.
No.
Aren't
but I'm
you
just
proud
saying,
of yourself?
I'm just saying that my observations are that they're literally talking about climate affected communities and disasters, but not addressing it. So then how do we then address those issues, meet them where they're at? And that was kind of like, that's where this thought pattern is coming in. But it's like wherever you go, people are talking about these effects, but they're not internalizing it, or there's kind of this gap that we're missing somewhere in there. And I don't have the answer. Just came up when I was just, heard you talking about it. But
I was just there. I was for the 20th anniversary of Katrina, which recording this earlier than it's coming out. But so that was last week. And I went out to Cancer Alley as well. And Sharon Rabin, who runs Rise St. James, kind of gave a tour of Cancer Alley. And I do have to say, like, there was a story of an emissions issue that happened, an accident at one of the plants, where, as I understand it, the I-10 freeway, which runs, east to west through Cancer Alley, was shut down because what was in the air was so bad they didn't even want people driving through it.
Wow.
But they didn't tell the local people on the ground who were in those affected parishes. So I sometimes think that information just isn't getting down. I had a breakfast with General Russell Honore, who is the brigadier general who kind of is known as, is one of the heroes of Katrina, brought the army in and helped get people off roofs and things. And there were some heads of environmental groups there. And General Honore came in and he said, y'all can save your moral outrage. Your moral outrage isn't doing us any good. Here's what we need. We need money. We need money for this and this and this. And what's true to some degree is some of the larger environmental organizations have used Cancer Alley as as a and it's a terrible situation down there. But as a, oh my gosh, look at this terrible these environmental justice issues, and they gin up support for their organizations that way. And so sometimes national messaging doesn't match local needs and
Mm-hmm.
local communication,
Mm-hmm.
Boy, there's
So,
nothing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm just curious because so we've got now this issue, the social justice issue on the ground. What you said, national, news or media isn't kind of getting to that level, or something's not connecting. So what's the what's the tech opportunity here, Brett? If like you're making it easy with your app, but can technology help us kind of bridge this divide of with communication to local level? I'm just curious, like how could that work?
Yeah, I don't know if technology could solve our bitter partisan, and our fractured communication system.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I do think I want to get to, I said sort of this is the most difficult problem we've ever faced. And one of the things that makes it really difficult is we're just not wired to deal with long-term problems. Well, that's part of it. And we're also really wired to be to be focused on our own self-term, near-term financial interest. On the other hand, we've got two things going for us as a species. One is we're tool creators and tool makers, and we're extraordinary, at this. And as we are sitting here speaking today, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of really bright engineers and innovators around the world who are working on amazing solutions. The other thing we have going for us is our wonderful storytelling brains.
Mm-hmm.
The way we construe reality is through stories. And I think, between Tim and me, you've got those two things. I'm the left brain nerd. Tim is the right brain communicator. I'm tech industry, he's entertainment industry. Most of the people listening to this, as I understand, are people in the entertainment industry.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
As you guys know, I mean, you have this you're the storytellers of our society. You have this incredible ability to fashion stories, and that is a key part of the solution is telling stories that really get people and move them and get them moving in the right direction. But then ultimately, I think Bill Gates sort of nailed it in his book. He talks about the green premium. That's the difference, how much more expensive it is to have a clean solution than to have a dirty solution.
Mm-hmm.
Engineers of our society and the innovators and the scientists have figured out how to make clean energy and the good stuff cheaper, faster, better than the bad stuff. It's game over for the fossil fuel industry. Because money is the lingua franca of
Uh-huh.
humanity, right? And when it's
Uh-huh.
faster, better to have an EV, or a heat pump, solar panels, eventually, it's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
the way I think about it, I know I'm not typical in this way, but I sort of think that we're sort of giving air cover to the engineers and so on who are innovating these solutions, technology solutions. But in the meantime, it's going to take time, and we need to bring society along, and we need to do
Yeah.
that through storytelling and messaging.
Yeah.
And so Tim may have a totally different perspective on that. I don't think he and I have even talked about it, in that way, but that's sort of my angle on it.
Yeah.
Dying to say something here.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim, because it's a great segue, right,
Well,
into what you're working on.
but here's what I want to say about the current moment we're in.
Right.
The financial tipping point you're describing, in many cases, we're already at. In many cases, we know silicon solar cells are going down 10% per year. The new Chinese battery almost fully charges in 5 minutes. That's about the same time it takes to fill a car with gas. So those hurdles are going away. The rest of the world is leaping ahead. We are in a moment where the gas fossil fuel industry spent $445 million in the last election cycle, and we are seeing terrible repercussions from that. And it's the most money they've ever spent. And that means they're desperate. What we are seeing now is the flailing legacy of a rat in a corner just trying to wring out the most profit they can before they die, period. So, and I thoroughly believe this. The situation we are in is one that is occurring because activists are winning, because people care about their children, because we're moving forward effectively and beautifully. And it is the only way they have to respond, number one. Number two, just important, I think, to also remember that 445 million not only paid for the more obvious, egregious EPA cuts and this and that, it also paid for everything in Project 2025. So if you have a problem with the diminution of the public commons, if you have a problem with the educational higher ed being destroyed, the way undocumented folks are treated, all of those things, we also need to remember to lay at the feet of the fossil fuel industry who paid for this current thing. They are responsible for it. They're responsible for it, and we need to do that. The third thing I'll just mention is, because there's despair right now, is the important memory. We know Eisenhower wrote an apology letter for the failure of D-Day. He wrote a speech about that. We know that Nixon wrote one about all the astronauts dying on the moon. We know that it was literally like 2 minutes before Nixon resigned from office, he had another speech where he did not resign. And about 2 minutes before they rolled, he went, okay, I'm going to get out. So history is not foreordained. History shifts on a dime. The majority of us are working towards the future that supports children, that supports the planet, that supports communities. We are in support of that. That is the majority of the people, and we are winning, and we are at a really rough bump in the road right now. But it's because people are effective, because people are caring.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think the way, by the way, that we fix New Orleans is we speak to people's values.
Yes.
Right.
That's what we have to do.
I want to underscore what Tim just said, because this is, ever since I started doing this, the main, and people using the app, and then they send us messages, and the main question I get asked over and over and over again is, am I making a difference? And I think what they're really saying is, I'm not making a difference. That deep down they feel like this is such a huge problem, and who are they? What can they possibly do about this? And it took me a long time to figure out how to answer that question. And the way I answer that question now for people is, public opinion is the only effective counterweight to the immense power of the fossil fuel industry. And people always nod when I say that. And then I go on and say, the fossil fuel industry knows this, which is why it spends hundreds of millions of dollars trying to influence public opinion with information. And even dictators like Xi Jinping and Putin know this, which is why they go so much trouble to control the national media. So don't tell me your opinion doesn't matter, right? Public opinion does matter. But then the counter argument is, well, but my opinion alone doesn't matter. And the answer to that is, you're not alone. When you are raising your voice, you are joining other people who are doing it. Don't tell me that it doesn't matter. I mean, just do a thought experiment. If half the people in your town went down to City Hall to demand action on any issue, do you think your city leaders would take it seriously? Yes, What if it's 10%? Yes, right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what the number is, but there, it gets, look at the Inflation Reduction Act, right? Climate change, according to Pew Research, is like 11th on the average American's priority of issues. But the biggest piece of legislation that the Biden administration passed was the Inflation Reduction Act. And what was that mainly about? It was about climate, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen? That was the priority of the Biden administration, and that was what
And
Tim was
job
talking
creation, right? I mean, I think there was something to do with like
job creation and so on. But basically, it was climate activists pushing so hard for that, that it went from being 11th for the average American to being the number one thing. So
Mm-hmm.
we're surrounded by evidence that our opinions really do matter, and we do need to be expressing them, you know.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was just going to add to that question, I also think that at the end of the day, people just want to be heard. People want their actions validated in some way. They want to know that what they're doing like actually contributes to something greater than themselves. It's like really fundamental. Like I talk to a ton of people. I work on a lot of, like it is the people, doing like we work in entertainment, so working on set, all the way up to people, execs in studios and whatnot who might give a talk and they come off the stage and they're like, how'd I do? Was that good? Yes, like people want to feel validated at all, everything they do. And I think that's what we're seeking in this kind of complex scenario, that we're in right now. We're bombarded in lots of different ways. We just want to know, like, if what we're doing matters.
right. We're also
So,
distracted to no end. I mean, to this, right?
so
I think
anyway.
that's the other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're also addicted to the idea of hope. I mean,
Oh.
one of the things you get as a climate, when you give people climate talks a lot, is people will say, well, where's the hope? Well,
Mm.
hope, there's plenty of things to be hopeful about, but hope unclothed without action,
Mhm.
it isn't anything. It's an opiate. It really is. And so if hope can be used to get people to be active, then it has value, But otherwise, I don't, if you're sad, if you're happy, if you're whatever you are, if you're not active, I don't care. I don't care, you know? And there's an awful lot of focus on, are we comfortable? Am I hopeful right now? And
Right. Yeah, it's because discomfort we really have here in North America. We really are afraid of discomfort. I mean, the whole entire society is geared towards comfort, and so that's an interesting point that you make.
Although I will say to you, as a Canadian, I have eaten poutine and have never had anything but discomfort.
Oh, really? Except for
And
in the
your
moment when you
people
were
seem
eating
to
it.
embrace that.
Except for the moment when you were eating it. Then it was
That's
just pure comfort.
lo-
And then you put some bacon on there, and then put some this and
a
that. Oh
lot. That's a
man,
lot.
it's a
That's a
lot.
lot.
Yeah, it's like 8 million
Well,
calories.
I just just switch gears just a little bit because Tim, I know that you also founded Climate Actors. So I'm curious on the
Mhm.
sort of entertainment side, what's going on there? Like how's that? What's the influence? What's the ripple effect?
I mean, so climate actors, I kind of found it because I had this notion that, and I think it's true, that I'm totally making this number up, but something like 95% of the acting community gets the climate problem, understands it, accepts the scientific reality, knows we have to work on it. But what I don't think the 95% understand is that 95% of the community is in agreement about that.
Okay.
And that if they did understand that, my notion was they would be more active. So we got a lot of folks in the community, and we were going around and doing talks with studios and at acting schools and all kinds of places. So that was that, I'm on the board of the Broadway Green Alliance,
Okay.
the which is phenomenally active organization, doing extraordinary work, building really hard. I've certainly been on lots of sets where you have studios with sustainability officers, et cetera. In some instances, I think there are corporations that want to be able to say, look, we're doing something good. And there are people in those positions who are working their butts off to do good things.
Hmm.
But I think we need to go further. I think we need people at every level, the heads of the corporations down to, the janitorial staff on a studio lot to understand the problem, to really make sure. And there are studios where I think they really do care, and the sustainability people really are getting more free reign. But I think there's more to be done. I agree with Brett on a level that, what we have, what actors have, musicians, artists have, is an ability to bring to access emotion and bring it into things.
Hmm.
Where we're problematic is if you don't know the subject you're talking about, boy, are you going to get roasted over it. And
Yeah.
there are plenty of people who have used the soapbox that rightly or wrongly comes with being kind of known in the business, and they've used that soapbox to terrible effect. I almost feel like the burden is twice as bad on people in the business to know what the hell you're talking about before you start opening your mouth.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is, you know, uh, everybody has stuff they can talk about this crisis because it affects everybody. So the thing I mentioned before about, the plumber or the
Mhm.
dishwasher, everybody's equally vital. Everybody
Mhm.
is irreplaceable. Everybody's possible contribution is irreplaceable. I for a long time was giving climate talks in maximum security prisons.
Mm.
And people would say, why? What agency do those people have? One of the other problems, I think, with the environmental movement is we have worked to influence the world top down, and we need to also let the world be influenced bottom up
Hmm.
and recognize the genius. Oh boy, I'm going to go far afield. Can I? Can
Yeah,
I?
please.
Okay. There's a Hindu story. There's a woman, and she's abducted by a demon who lives on an island with an army of demons, and nobody can get her back. And these heroes keep trying, and there's nothing. And there's a monkey named Hanuman, and Hanuman says, "Why don't you want me to go get her? I'll go." And sure. So Hanuman goes to the island. He just finds the woman. The head of the demons catches him. They light his tail on fire. Ha ha ha! And Hanuman breaks loose and runs, leaping from building to building to get out of there. Lights the whole city on fire. It burns to the ground. And the demons can't believe that's happened. And a little while later, Hanuman appears with an army of monkeys and bears. And the head of the demons says, "Oh my gosh, or no, the generals go, oh my God, look, there's an army." And he says, "Shut up, they're monkeys and bears. What are the monkeys and bears going to do?" And of course, the monkeys and bears rescue the woman, blah, blah, blah. And you eventually learn that Hanuman is a god in the Hindu religion. Um, the thing that strikes me always about that story is, um, what agency are we all carrying in ourselves? And
Hmm.
we say to ourselves, I'm just a monkey, I'm just a bear. But we're really carrying the possibility, together we're the saviors. Hanuman doesn't come back just as himself. He comes back with an army of monkey and bears. And there's some important level at which anybody denying the possibility of their own agency is just an awful sin against the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do something.
100%. Yeah, you got it. You got it in you. Do something. That's right.
It doesn't, it doesn't have to be writing your Congress official. That's super cool, super useful. But getting heat pump, or just making a pledge. The next time my air conditioning breaks down, I'm going to replace it with a heat pump.
Going to your local farmer's market.
Yeah, actually, the eminent climate scientist Catherine Hayhoe, sort of made her mark figuring out how to talk with evangelical Christians about climate.
Yeah.
She says, I think she's just nailed it. The best thing you can do about climate change is to talk about it.
Yeah.
To talk about it. Because, and I think that's so correct. And it's so correct because we are social animals. We are influenced by what people around us are saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're constantly attuned to what other people are saying, our radar. And so if we don't talk about it, nobody's going to do anything about it. But if we're all talking about it, it will get up there on the priority, and things will happen.
From a non-partisan, non-political way. Like at the end of the day, these tests have to be we still can't just have dialogue with each other on this topic here in North America, at least, but at least in places like Europe and other places, even China, right? They've already got consensus.
No, what are you talking about? That's garbage. They've
got consensus.
Dialogue about this.
But I know, but other places in the world have found a way to get consensus on these issues, and we seem to be literally unable to do it. So, that's a whole other podcast, probably.
I think
1850s. Let me ask you a question. 1850s. Where was the biggest aggregation of capital in the United States?
New York?
No, it wasn't in one of the states. It wasn't in the factories. It wasn't in the railroads. It wasn't in the military. It wasn't in shipping. It wasn't in the banks. It wasn't in the government. It was in the money spent on slaves in the United States, in the human capital of that. I believe that part of the reason that terrible, terrible, terrible system went on and on and on and on as long as it did is because the investment was so heavy in it.
Right.
Similarly, and I mean this in economic terms only, I'm not talking about human degradation and all of that. The capital invested in fossil fuels has allowed many, many people to justify our continued participation in this. We have around 65, 70%, the majority of the people get this thing now. The other side of it has a lot of money, and they amplify this sense of this thing that is unreal, that the minority is more of a majority than they are. And the truth is, you can talk to anybody. I have great joy in talking to people who think really differently. And the question is, how do I approach that? So how do you approach that? I'm thinking of I talked to a group in a pretty conservative town called Eastchester, New York. And I started my talk saying, I'm here to talk about jobs. I'm here to talk about consumer choice. I'm here to talk about, I can't remember, there were for national security. You can talk about all those things, and then you can talk about the climate crisis without talking in words that are triggering.
Yeah.
So the question is also, how do I push aside my own personal predilections? That's one. The other one is with an audience like that, if I want change, I've got to listen. I've got to be willing for them to say something that makes me go, God, you're right. There's no climate crisis. Because if I'm not doing that, then there's no reason I should ever expect them to change based on what I'm saying. I've got to be willing to change based on their.
And it's an art and it's a skill to even be able to do that, because we come, with certain biases. We come with we want to get our information out or whatever. And it really is, I think, a skill to be able to just, just talk and listen, right? I mean, anyway.
Talk and listen. Yeah, great.
I just want to say thank you both.
Thank you so much
for being on this podcast. And it's why we're doing this podcast, is to talk about issues and different viewpoints and bring forth cool stuff like what you guys are doing. I'm definitely joining the app and encourage everyone listening to do the same. So really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you both.
Can I just make one little plug here?
Totally.
Please. Oh yeah. Shameless promo. How do we find you?
Where? Yeah.
Shameless promo. Okay. Begin shameless promo. One of the problems with the app is that it's an app, and everybody has too many apps, and I don't want another app. I don't want to have to learn another thing. This next generation of our technology is we're taking the app, and anybody who has a website, anybody, your local Presbyterian church, your Rotary Club, whatever, anybody who has a website, we can give you 2 lines of JavaScript. You can stick it on your website, and then you will have that action carousel that Tim was talking about. And any visitor, and we are making this available for free to any organization. I think the first organization that's going to have it is going to be the Greenfield, Michigan Presbyterian Church. Yeah.
Can I sign up?
Yes. And so this is the shameless promotion. If you want to have a climate action carousel where your visitors to your website can take hundreds of actions, all you have to do is send a message to support@climateactionnow.com. Just tell us you're interested in getting the CAN Action Carousel. And by the time this podcast is aired, I think it will actually be up and running, and we'll be able to send you a little snippet of JavaScript, and you can activate. And this could be climate, college organizations, Rotary clubs.
It's community. You're taking it to the communities now to engage communities in their areas versus it being an app that just people engaging with.
I mean, so many civic organizations like the ones I just mentioned, they do have groups of people within those organizations who are concerned about climate. Sometimes they're using the app, sometimes they're working with other organizations, but this will give them a way to make the action taking power of this technology available to their communities for free. Mm-hmm. And it's super, super easy to do. It literally takes 10 seconds, for somebody who knows how to, who for their webmaster, whoever does their web pages, to just paste that little bit of snippet of code into the page, and then voila, and that's what I want to show you guys after we're done, broadcasting this or recording this. I want to show you, your eyeballs are going to be among the first eyeballs on the planet to see this new technology platform.
I want to make the last pitch too.
Okay, go ahead.
Because it's the end, you can cut it if you don't like it. Yeah. I want to tell one quick story. So with Vice President Gore's fabulous organization, the Climate Reality Project, which I am madly in love with, several years ago, we did a training down in Atlanta, and we all went down to Ebenezer Baptist Church, and there was a rabbi there who told this story, which is that there's an old Talmudic Hebrew word called a bira deleket. And a bira deleket is a house fully engulfed in flames. And so the story is, there's a traveler walking down the road. He looks and he sees this bira deleket, this house on fire. And there's weirdly a man standing inside the house, inside the conflagration, with just his head sticking out the window. And the traveler yells, "Who is the master of this house?" And the man in the window in the fire says, I'm the master. And what the rabbi said was, we often forget around the climate crisis that when we're burning down the world, that God is in the world we're burning down. We're burning God down too. And we forget sometimes that just because things are comfortable in the living room, that maybe there's a fire in the kitchen. Maybe there's a fire in the bedroom where people of lesser financial means, of people with different skin colors in different countries are burning. And we forget that. And then she said, the miracle of the old Talmudic Hebrew is that Bira Deleket doesn't just mean a house engulfed in flames. It also means a fully illuminated house. So within that is the possibility that this moment is actually the moment of great discovery of the nobility of our ability to be of service, is the moment of the great discovery of our ability to love, to be smart, to be generative, to care, to take care, to have gratitude for this extraordinary, miraculous experience. So I just wanted to put that in as a spice of hope in the soup of what we've been talking about.
100%.
Well
That's
done.
so great. That's so great.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes.
As we hurl
Thanks.
through space on a little blue dot. Yeah, I love it.
I know. Well, thanks again, guys. Really, really appreciate it. And, we're going to get some more people on the app. We're going to get some more people out there taking action. So thank you for what you're doing. And
Thank you for what you're doing.
can't wait to
Yeah.
see how this all plays out and ripple effect and everything. So
Thank you, guys.
thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Our designer is Aaliyah Kane. Music is by Peter Chapman. Social media is by Picnic Social. Our editor and producer is Rachel Werbel.